You know those things that people do now when they catch a thief and then people put tire on the person. All those things are called jungle justice. The law frowns against it. If you are caught, the person will go to jail. Now, when those things happen, let the law take its course. Another problem we have in Nigeria is a lot of people don't know their rights. A lot of people don't even know the law.
Today we have Barrister Oluwatimilehin. He's a lawyer in Nigeria that focuses on compliance and other legal aspects of doing business in Nigeria. And in this episode, we'll be talking about what type of business needs a lawyer in Nigeria and when should you actually get a lawyer. Then how to protect yourself against employee theft and other type of theft in your business. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining me today, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Personally, I've had the experience of, employee running away with your money or other stories. How do you think business owners can actually mitigate against this? Before you employ someone, what are some things you can get from them to mitigate all the risk of them running away with your money, and what are some things you can do?
My response will be based on my experience with drafting contracts and advising companies. So when it comes to employee-employer relationships, it's always better when you as the employer is in the strong zone, in that you have a higher bargaining power. And one way you can cement your bargaining power is when you make your employment contract or code of conduct or work policies very comprehensive and very tight. As long as you are operating within the law with anything that you ask your employee to bring, then you are safe. The law doesn't exactly say, the employers cannot say that employees should not bring a guarantor. And even when you bring a guarantor, the law frowns against arresting you. You cannot arrest someone instead of another person. So even if you bring a guarantor, you can't go and arrest the guarantor. You can only persuade the person to come over, right? You can't arrest the person for another crime or another. Do you understand? So what you can do in that sense, and I understand your point, because people can be very funny. You see some people and then you give them money and then they fly away. For actual businesses, partnerships and people in the corporate world, they have series of contracts and series of agreements to ensure that people do not run away with their funds. And if you run away with they would arrest you. There are ways you can go about it. After collecting like documentation, things like the national identification number, NIN, and other forms of identification that have made some of these things quite simple. When they have like some of your documents and some of your ways to identify you, then it's easier to track you and ensure that you are not running away. Some businesses have things that they have references. Some have like providing details of your next of kin. Although all of these details must fall within the scope of the Nigerian Data Protection Act in data minimization, in that there are some kind of data you cannot collect about some. And that's why every business you need a lawyer, because based on the kind of business that you do, the lawyer will be able to advise you that this is the kind of thing that you should do. These are the kind of details you collect in the event someone runs away with your money. I imagine that companies like FanMake, for example, who have like bike men who ride around and things like that, they would have a lot of lawyers always advising them and telling them their business, so that people don't just wake up this morning and be like, they're giving me FanMake and you got, and let me just ride their bicycle and run away. They have like different lawyers who handle different areas of their business, and they help them to do so many.
Is it legal to actually collect the original copy of an employee's international passport to say, let me have this with me, so in case you run away, you can't travel out and I can easily find you?
Most businesses would want some type of identification, right? Most businesses would want some type of ID card and all that. It all depends on the dynamics and what's happening. As long as you don't delve out of the provisions of the law, you are most likely safe. So that's how the law goes. And again, that is why you need a lawyer. As an individual, you just need someone to advise you. One of the things that lawyers is that lawyers help to avoid mistakes before they become problems. They can advise you and help you anticipate what is likely going to be the future. When you have like legal backing and then you can call the person, should I submit this? Should I drop this? Even if you drop it, it's fine. If you don't drop it, it's fine. I've had instances where some of my seniors have, in fact, there was a senior of mine who had to like drop his call to bar certificate at some point as a guarantee that a client was not going to run away. But when you know that this person is not running away, there really isn't any problem. And they can easily defend it that it is because of the law, some legal issue and so on and so forth. So yeah, once you have some of these things about your mind, shouldn't be a problem.
For a supermarket that catches shoplifter, so is it legal for them to actually post the picture of the shoplifter? Because they said every time they catch them and they take them to the police station, they are not really dealt with to their own satisfaction. Is it legal to actually post the picture of those people so that it will serve as an example for those that want to also shoplift?
When it comes to stealing Stealing is not a civil wrong. Civil wrong is an issue that happens between you and I. For example, if I eat your car, that's a civil wrong. That's between individuals, matters between individuals. But criminal wrongs are between individuals and the state. Stealing is a crime. It's not a civil, issue. And because it is a crime, the laws and guidelines that will guide crimes, it is the state that will guide, prosecution and all of that, not individual, right? The state frowns against jungle justice and taking matters into your own hands. Things like displaying people's picture and all of that. In fact, it is possible that the person you caught, what if you caught the person and then maybe the person was set up, you check your camera, CCTV you have, and then it turns out that the person was not even guilty, and then you pasted the person's picture all over. The person can come back and sue you for, breach of fundamental human rights as guaranteed in the Constitution. So if you say, for example, you catch a shoplifter inside your shop, the person stole something, what you should do? The law, the Nigerian Police Act, has given private persons power to arrest. So as a private person, you can arrest someone. That's what it means. You can arrest someone. Of course, there are limits. It's not like you arrest the person and be punching the person and so on. No. But there are laws guiding, some of these things. As a private person, if, say, for example, the crime happens on your property or the crime was committed in front of you, your presence, you were there, you can arrest the person. But what the law says is, once you arrest the person, hand the person over to a police officer or take the person to the nearest police station without unnecessary delay. It's not like after arresting the person in your shop, you're not going to lock the person in a cage and say, no, you've taken something in my shop, I must arrest you, I must jail you. No. But as a private person, you can arrest individuals without warrant. You can arrest them and say, but once you've arrested them, hand them over to a police officer, take them to a police station without unnecessary delay. It's not like once that happens, and once that happens, you give them to the police officer, the police officer will deal with it, whether it is to your satisfaction or not, because every person is innocent or proven guilty. So once you hand them over to the police officer knows, the investigating police officer, IPO, he knows the steps to take to charge the person to court. And that's why in cases you see the state versus something, the state against something, because the person has committed whatever crime, and then the police officer knows how to take it up. Even for civil wrongs, once someone hits your car, it is, if you say, for example, if the car that he hits is a lawyer's car now, and then you are now saying, and you want to arrest the lawyer knows his rights. You can't be calling policemen and be telling policemen to arrest this person because the person hit your car. No, that's not how it should be done. There are laws guiding some of these things. The law has prescribed the ways that these things should be handled. You know those things that people do now when they catch a thief and then people put tire on the person. All those things are called jungle justice. The law frowns against it. If you are caught, the person will go to jail. Now, when those things happen, let the law take its course. That's why we have laws. That's why we have guidelines for these things. We have laws in place. But another problem we have in Nigeria is a lot of people don't know their rights. A lot of people don't even know the law. This election petition issue that happened now, people that tuned into this, people were complaining that, the judgment is long. Is this how the law is? Because most people don't know how courts operate. Most people don't know how the law operates. So it is important that if you have a friend who is a lawyer or you have someone, learn some things from them. You can just, in fact, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is available to everybody. It's available offline, it's available online. Read it. Check chapter 4 of Fundamental Human Rights. Right to life, right to personal liberty, and so on and so forth. Your rights are there. Those are rights as guaranteed under the Constitution. If you read it, you know your rights. You know what you can do, and you know what you cannot do. So it helps. So if you catch someone like that, please hand them over to the nearest police station. What you can do as an individual after doing that is that you can help them gather evidence. Say, for example, if it's video evidence you have, if you have fingerprint or whatever you have, give it to the police officer. Police officer, to help the case. This is what I have, the person stole. And then from there, they will be able to take up matter to the letter of the law.
Still on employee matter. So how do you think business owners can prevent themselves against the wrongdoings of their employee? So let's imagine you have a supermarket and your employee who is currently working with you commits a legal crime. How can you prevent yourself as a store owner so that the something will not come to your own business?
When I advise companies and when companies are trying to set up in Nigeria, there's usually a checklist of agreements that they must have. You must have it. Your employment contract must be sound. Your code of conduct must be sound. Your policies and regulations must be sound. If you have any non-compete or NDAs or whatever, they must be very sound and they must be very uptight. So when you have some of these things in place, in your employment contract, it will tell you your rules and responsibilities. It will tell you the extent of your powers. It will tell you, all of this that you can do and you cannot do. Vicarious liability is a concept that when your employee does something within the limits of their employment, within the course of their employment, then as an employer, you may be liable. For example, if I have a company that sells cars, for example, and then I ask one of my drivers to go and drop a car for a client, and while you are going to drop a car for the client, you get to, maybe Aja under bridge. and you know how the traffic of Aja under bridge is. You get there and then you hit someone. If you hit someone, it is in the course of employment. So your employer may be vicariously liable. That kind of thing, you know that it would now depend on the kind of employment contract. Okay, you know that, okay, this happened in the course of business. Things like insurance will come in. And that's the lawyer would advise you that you should get insurance. Things like that, the employer is going to be liable, vicarious liability and so on. And then it now depend on, okay, like employee contract, what happened? Was it within the scope of your employment? I asked you to go and drop a car and we closed by 4, but you went to drop the car around 6 p.m. That is not within the scope of your employment anymore because we've closed 6 p.m. What were you doing in Aja under bridge with the client's car at 6 p.m.? I'm no longer liable because I am the employer and it was not done within. But if it was done within the course of employment, things like insurance and so on and so forth, those things will be the ones to like come in place, and based on your code of conduct and policies, everything will help. So that's one way you can protect yourself.
Let's assume I operate my business in say Lagos State, for example, and I want to move to, let's say, Ekiti or even Osun State to set up another outlet. Is there anything I need to do legally to make sure I'm not getting into trouble?
Generally, when it comes to business formation in Nigeria, the law that guides formation of business in Nigeria is CAMA. That's the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Under CAMA says when you want to register your company, this is how you should go, this is how you should be incorporated. If you now decide to move within states of Nigeria, you don't need to register another company. Once you've registered your company under CAMA, you've registered it once, and that's it. The only thing that you may need to do is to update your details with the Corporate Affairs Commission and say, okay, we now have a branch in Osogbo, we now have a branch in Osun State, we now have a branch in Lagos. But if you register your company, for example, when you are registering, every company would have some of the details you would have would be registered office address of the company. You see some companies, they will have a registered office in Lagos, they will have another one in Abuja, they will have another one in Osogbo, Osun State, they will have another one in Akwa Ibom. But once you've registered once, you don't need to register another company again when you change states. You can just update your details and say, okay, these are the areas in Nigeria where you have branches. As long as the same thing you are doing in Lagos is the same thing you are doing in Osun State. As long as the same thing you are doing in Osun State is the same thing you are doing in Anambra. If you are doing a different type of business from Lagos and Osun State now, you may need to register another company. But since the objects are what you do as your business, since the objects are the same thing, you don't need to register another company.
Well, is this irrespective of whether it's a sole proprietorship, that's company name or incorporation?
Yes, it is.
So what kind of business needs a lawyer? So is it every business that needs a lawyer? Because some people just sell something by the roadside. Do they need a lawyer? So some have supermarkets. So what type of business needs a lawyer?
The need for you having a lawyer would depend on the plans you have for your business. It may be extravagant to say, someone who just sells maybe roasted corn by the roadside or something, she needs a lawyer and so on and so forth. But there are numerous factors that can affect your need for having a lawyer. Countries that are much more developed than Nigeria, almost every Jack and Jerry has access to legal representation because they know how important it is to have legal backing in whatever they are doing. But I imagine that, a very large number, of people who would probably be watching this video at the end of this program would be people who intend to start a business, and people who, want to run a business and so on. So I would just like to, restrict some of the answers to that area. If you know where you are going and you know the plans you have for your business, then you need to have a lawyer. Any business that cares about the short and long-term goals, that you have for your business. Short-term goals in the interim, like, okay, this is how you want to set up, this is how you want to progress. Long-term goals in that, okay, this is what you want to do when you are 5 years down the line, when you are 10 years down the line, this is how you want to progress, and so on. In Nigeria, generally, there are different types of businesses that you can open. You can operate as a sole proprietorship, you can operate as a partnership, and you can operate as a company. So if you're a sole proprietor now, you know that you may need to get some licenses, you may need to get some agreements in place, you may need to understand tax laws, you may need to understand how to set up your business, what benefits accrue to you being a sole proprietor. If it's a partnership, you want to know how you are able to relate with your partners, right? You want to know your benefits, your roles and responsibilities. And of course, if it's a company, in Nigeria, the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, that's the regulation that deals with setting up businesses in Nigeria. Under CAMA, you can have a private company or you can have a public. A lawyer is someone who would advise you on, okay, this is the way to go. Set up a private company based on this. Set up a public company based on this. If you set up a private company, this is what you get. Set up a public company, this is what you get. So depending on your own plans, your long-term and short-term goals, then you'll be able to determine, oh, I think I need a lawyer badly. But generally, I would advise that all businesses should have lawyers because it never hurts. For example, this morning, the person who called me was someone I met like some 3 months ago, and he just wanted to know, tax implications in Lagos regarding some particular things. So yes, if you have a lawyer, maybe someone on retainer, maybe someone you can always call, just call them and I'm trying to set up a business, tell them. Of course, pay them because people tend to want to take advantage of, relationships and all. But yes.
Though I've seen some lawyer do tax and all that. So, but do you advise that someone should actually use a lawyer for tax or you just get a tax consultant?
There are different types of lawyers. There are criminal lawyers. There are lawyers who deal with IP. There are lawyers who deal with tax. Most lawyers deal with a number of things, but at the most basic level, every lawyer can give you a level of advice on company business, right? But there are just some very particular details, that tax lawyers, like you said, can be very particular. We have capital gains tax, CGT. We have, there are so many different tax that you may need to pay, and you don't want to run foul of the law. You don't want the law to now catch up with you later and then say, oh, you've not been paying your tax, or you've not been filing annual returns in the case of a public company, and so on and so forth. So when you have a lawyer, the lawyer can advise you that if you set up a company like this is what you will get. If you set up a company like this is what you get. If this is what you are bringing in, this is what you get. I'll give you an example. For foreign companies who are coming into Nigeria, right, there are a number of incentives that they can undertake. For example, there's something we call pioneer status, right? So pioneer status is if you're a foreign company that's coming to Nigeria and the kind of product or the kind of business you are coming to do is something that no one is doing in Nigeria and is of interest to national development, you get pioneer status. It's one of the incentives that you get. And under pioneer status, you're not going to be paying tax for about 5 years, right? So if you are a foreign company who is just coming into Nigeria and you don't have like the right legal knowledge or someone to advise you, you can just go and set up some random company and then for like the first 2-3 years, you won't be able to tap into those incentives that being a foreign company who is doing this kind of thing may be able to tap into.
So I want you to briefly tell us, because you mentioned we should get a lawyer, but for some of us that don't really have the funds, because when people hear a lawyer, they will be like, hey, too much money. I don't even have the money to run my business. Where do I want to get the money to get a lawyer? So what advice will you give those kind of people? What can they do to actually tap into the expertise of a lawyer without actually spending Dangote money?
I think it depends on a number of factors. And one of the things is the type of lawyer. Then 2, the type of company, right? So I mentioned the type of lawyer because people are more inclined to go and meet lawyers who are just starting out, young lawyers, because they feel that, oh, maybe this person will not charge me well, this person will not charge me high, but I can still get enough, and stuff like that. The most important thing is that you pay your lawyer the fees he or she is due. If your lawyer says the fee for doing this thing is 500k, pay the lawyer. If you want to register your company and then the lawyer is telling you, I register my company 100k, I register my company 50k, I register my company 200k, pay the lawyer and let the lawyer get it sorted. There's always a lawyer for everyone. There's always, if you meet someone who will do 500k, the reason why the person is doing this for 500k is different from the reason why someone is doing it for 200k. There are different ways lawyers charge. For someone like me now, if I'm going to charge you, I will charge you based on my experience in the profession. I will charge you based on, the kind of person that you are and the quality of work that you want to do. You cannot be telling me, oh, I should sell land 100 million now, for example, and then say, okay, you want to pay lawyer 10k. It's not done because if you are buying a land for 100 million, you know that you need solid legal research. You can't afford that transaction, cannot afford to fail. You can't buy land for 100. See what is happening in Abuja now. The minister of the FCT has said, oh, they are going to be like demolishing some houses because you don't move into the plan. If those people that build those houses have contacted lawyers that have done solid research with the Federal Capital Development Authority, they won't be suffering those issues now. And that's one of the reasons why you should pay a lawyer, because the lawyer will do research. The lawyer will go and check the root of the land. He will check the root of the house. He will ensure that 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, you are safe. There is no legal issue that will happen. There won't be any litigation matter that will happen on the land. Someone cannot just come and say, oh, you've built land on the road. You've built land where it's not part of the plan of the state. So all of these things, you need someone to, to help you set up. If you're an upcoming business, if you're just starting, for example, maybe the only thing you need is just maybe lease agreement or maybe your employee contract. Meet someone who help you draft the contract. The lawyer tells you, okay, this is how much you pay. Pay the lawyer and move on.
What you mean is that we can pay them per contract, not that we pay them like on a retainer. Is that something?
No, it depends on the relationship. It depends on the professional relationship you have with the lawyer. There are some people that they have lawyers on retainer. People like the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you think you won't have a lawyer on retainer?
So when we say, for those that don't know, when we say retainer, that means you are paying them on a monthly basis.
You are paying them. They are your person. It can be general retainer, it can be specific retainer. If you pay me, if you have me on retainer, it means that if you call me 2 a.m. in the morning, I am at your service. If you call me 5 p.m. in the evening, I'm at your service. If you have any business, I am your lawyer. You call me, the law. I have land to buy so and so and so and so. And then I tell you, okay, send me the details. Come and meet me in my office. Let's discuss. That's what thing. When you have me on retainer, I am like your personal lawyer. That's what a retainer is. You can also pay on contract. Say, okay, I give you this land agreement to help me draft. I give you this land agreement to help me do. You can pay me based on that transaction. It all depends on the relationship between you and the lawyer. If the lawyer charges you, if the lawyer says, okay, have me on retainer, if it's 10 million you want to pay for my retainer per year, no problem. But if you say, okay, I want this based on transaction, when I conduct the transaction, I pay you, then depending on what you can afford.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's been an amazing session that has been packed with a lot of value. So is it also okay for us to put your contact details in the description of the video?
It's okay if people may have questions, right? I've dedicated my life to, explaining some of these things to people. Because if you are related to me or you are my friend or you call me, I don't want it to be the case where, say for example, you want to set up a business and then you always reach out. If you need advice or something, you can always reach out. And if you are in a bit of a fix and then you want to know what your rights are, maybe you've not read the constitution, which I suggest everyone should, then I can advise and do all of that. So anybody that has issues, you should always be willing to help. So I'm always available to help, information or whatever I can share, I'll be willing to share it.
Thank you very much. I will put the details, your contact details in the description of this video.
That's fine.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.